Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the place where you can learn how to create a dental practice and a business life that you love. Listen in with Dr. David Moffet as he interviews successful entrepreneurs and successful business people and successful dentists as they share their business successes, their stories, and their breakthrough ideas, sharing pearls of wisdom that you can take back to your practice and implement immediately so that you can have that great practice with more patients, higher profits, and less stress. This is the podcast where great dental practices meet with successful business processes. Thanks for tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast, the podcast where thought leaders, industry experts, and thriving practice owners reveal their very best tips, tools, and strategies that will help you grow your dental practice faster. Now, here's your host, Dr. David Moffet.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Moffet. I'm in Burrowang in New South Wales, and it is 1 o'clock here on a Tuesday afternoon. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the studio my good friend, Melinda Heryford, who's in Lincoln in California. Now she's in Northern California, just outside of Sacramento, and it is Monday evening over there, but the sun is still shining because they've just started summertime. Melinda, nice to see you again after so many years. Welcome to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.
Thank you, David. So good to see you. So good to, just be able to visit with you.
Yeah, as I said before when we started chatting before this recording, it's been nearly 6 years since I've been to the United States,
That's
and
crazy.
7 years since I've been for a dental meeting because of COVID, which basically got everybody changing the way they did
For
things.
sure.
And one of the funny things was I said, I'll build this studio to train and present in, and as soon as it's finished, COVID will be over and everybody will be back doing what they normally did. And there you go. I was Nostradamus. That's what's happened. But Melinda, lovely to chat with you. And like me, you're a dental coach, a dental consultant, and very successful. So I wanted to just touch base with you as to what's happening in your part of the world or in your world in terms of what you're seeing in dental practice and dental practice coaching, and what are the new trends, and then what are the things that you're doing that are the tried and true things that never change. So tell me a bit about Melinda Heryford Inc., which is your company, and what you're doing in dentistry in 2025.
I'd love to do that, David. I think we've seen a bunch of change, actually. There's change from COVID. There's also change. There's a consolidation really happening in our part of the world where the DSO had rampant, like rapid movement. It's slowed down a bit, but it's still a movement that's happening absolutely. And at the same time, I see new practitioners buying private practices. Many of them are buying private practices that are already fee for service. So in other words, they have said we're no longer a member of a PPO plan. Delta is the predominant plan in California. And so they're buying these private practices. And, you know, I find it fascinating because these, they're young doctors and they're buying actually pretty substantially big practices with associate doctors in them. And so I think there's that element of being brand new to a practice and brand new to dentistry, to really practicing dentistry, just getting out of school. Some of them have been associates, but I think those are elements that we're seeing. I think we're also seeing, even in the DSO world, they're buying so rapidly that each practice isn't necessarily getting attended to. So that's what the leadership has reported that I've heard. They're they're growing so fast that it's difficult to manage internally because the focus has been on external growth. And so, that's really where we come back to what are those tried and true things that we have done over the years that really do make a successful practice. And so I want to talk about some of those things. And also what are the things that we're facing with patients? I just talked to Steve Jensen, Steve Jensen, and with the data collected in Dental Intel, with managed practices cancellation rates are 12 to 15%. So David, before COVID, it was 8 to 10. And with not so well managed practices, it's 25%. I mean, think about that, David. 25%. Oh my gosh, right? And then that just takes all your admin time to fill what canceled today. So I think there are several things happening, and so I was chatting with you before. When I started, I've been consulting a long time. I started in dentistry when I was 14, David. So we don't even have to do the math here to know how long I've been in dentistry. And I've been consulting since I was 22. And so some of the tried and true pieces are, we are here to serve. Absolutely, right? We're here to serve. Um, but service alone isn't what makes people say yes to dentistry. And I feel like our ultimate goal is to be so good at involving the patient in the conditions that they have, that they bring themselves to say, yes, I want to do these things so that I can stay healthy, so that I can save my teeth, so that I can have a beautiful smile. I mean, it's a very noble profession that we have. And I think we give up far too soon when we're talking to people about the dentistry. And I feel like we let them off the hook sometimes. It's okay. You can do it after your vacation. You could do it after you do these things. So, I think there are places for us to shore up our conversations with patients so that it is, I call it loving, not lenient, that we're lovingly telling them about their conditions so that they can be involved in that, so that they can say yes. And so you asked me, what changes have we made? And I used to teach 44 systems, David. I know, 44. I was very proud of my 44 systems. It's like let me tell you about the 44 systems I have. But dentists, they don't want to know about that. They want to improve the flow. They want to improve their patient care. They want to improve those things. And so, and with all the changes, I had to get smarter about what I felt like really made the difference. And so we applied Pareto's principle, and really, David, we consistently apply Pareto's principle. Like, of the practice management things that we do, what really makes a difference? Because they don't all make a difference, as you know. So we cut that 44 systems down to 6. So it's like, that's pretty amazing, right?
That's making it lean, Melinda, for sure.
It is making it lean. It is making it lean, and it really is fascinating because we have a methodology that we like to train in, where we show them a system that's called awareness. Then we show them the system again for implementation. Then we show them the system again for mastery. And as you know, David, I mean, you were a dentist. How long did it take Jane to master phone skills when she was working in your practice? How long?
It took her a while, because her story is hilarious, because she was hired by me as a concierge, because our children were old enough to find their own way home from school. So I said, come and just work as a concierge and just schmooze the patients, because that's definitely something that's missing in a dental office.
For sure.
And so she would drop the children off for school and then turn up about 9:30. And one morning she came in and I said, we've got a bit of a problem. Both receptionists are off sick and you're going to need to answer the phone. And she said, how hard is that going to be? Well, by the end of the day, she said, David, there's no systems here. So she set
Yeah.
about starting the systems and then refining those systems. And it does take time. And when she teaches people, it it it's not something that you can just learn and absorb and then they've got it. It's like piano lessons. It's like golf lessons. It's a lifetime. It's like going to the gym. It's a lifetime commitment to improvement and mastering those skills so that what comes out of your mouth is natural and not scripted or not forgotten and then going back to what you always used to do before, which was bad.
Right.
Um, and
Right.
and so, yeah, I'm glad that you've been able to make it lean. A friend of mine is a futurist. He speaks on the future, and he was finding, like you, that his clients were he actually got hauled off stage at the first break by one speaker, and he said, "You can't keep talking like this to my team. They just need to know what to do tomorrow, not what to do in 6 months or 12 months' time. That's too detailed for them. Just fix their tomorrow future so that they can take that next step." So I love how you've used the Pareto principle of, that it's 20% of the stuff that makes 80% of the difference.
Yeah.
I think Jim Rohn said it's 5 or 6 things. It's a half a dozen things that make all the difference.
That's it.
And
That's
so
it.
you've got it down to those 6 things. So congratulations
Thank thank you.
on making it leaner and more interesting for people because it's bite-sized chunks as well. It's manageable for them.
It is. It is manageable. And so we focus on one wig, period, one wildly important goal. It's an annual goal, but one wildly important goal. Two most important things. We call those MITs, two most important things. And it really is two most important things overall for the practice, but really for each person, because you really can take this down to the team member. And then three is accountability, because as you know, David, you had a practice, as you know, a conversation with a team member is a conversation with a team member. It's not an expectation, it's a conversation. And so how do you make it clear what it is that they're supposed to create each day? Because when you interview a team member, as you know, for you and I, if you asked us, we're working hard. I'll tell you, I'm working hard. I'm working really hard. And I'm working really hard every day. I talk to the patients. I'm really great with the patients. And that's all true, and it may not move the needle. All those things may not move the needle. And so it's like we go, okay, let's step back. And, in addition to being friendly and caring for the patient, because I think that's a minimum standard for us in dentistry. It's like you have to be good with people and you have to care for them, but that's a minimum standard. What is the one or two things that are going to help us make our goal, or one or two things that are going to help our patients get to yes? So we create this, what is the wildly important goal, and what is each team member responsible to do? And so what I love about how lean that is, because you know how important the schedule is. It's critical.
Absolutely.
It's critical. All we really have is time, right? That's all. I mean, we have
And
time.
how we use it. Yep.
We have time, and when it's gone, it's gone. We can't get it back. It's not going to come back. So that schedule being designed and held in a way that's productive, that has the mix of procedures, so we're taking care of the productivity, we're taking care of the fills, we're taking care of the new patients, we're taking care of the seats, that beautifully designed schedule that's not just a full schedule, right? It's a productive schedule. That's
Yes.
critical. And so that piece, like, people are responsible for that. The admin team is responsible to hold that schedule. The doctor is responsible to help really build the urgency with patients so that they take those times, they take the next 2 times, right? Those, so the powerful communication that comes from the back. The clinical team, as you know, David, is more responsible for patients saying yes than the admin team. Would you agree?
You can't do it. It doesn't matter if it's not said in the back. It doesn't matter how good your front office is. They can't convince the patient if the patient hasn't heard it and remembered it from the back.
That's
And
it.
so you've got to set up that process where the patient hears it. And like dealing with children, Melinda, they've got to hear it more than once
Seven
to get
times.
it
Seven
yeah,
times.
7 times.
7 times, David. So we have to work pretty hard to say it 7 times, right? We have to work pretty hard to say it 7 times. But yeah, patient needs us to hear it 7 times minimally to the go, oh, okay, that's right. Because you know how they come up to the front and they say, well, they didn't tell me that. They didn't tell me that, those pieces. And so, you know, I think it really is saying, okay, there's many things you do in the back office. There are so many things you do to take care of patients, even just with the procedure that you're having today. And in addition to taking care of that procedure today on time, your focus is on the next visit and setting up that next visit excellently so that there's a picture up. That's the clinical team's job. There's a picture up, right? So when the doctor walks in the room, like, oh wow, yeah, that's what's next. Do you see that? Do you see this? Do you see? So the best way to take care of that tooth is X. So, but the whole team has to do their job so that we can communicate excellently, right? So it's because it's not just the doctor. We're just setting it all up for the doctor, but the hygienist, as you know, I mean, I was talking to one of my clients. His life changed when he got a hygienist that would talk about conditions and what was next for patients. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a scale for hygienists. At one end they're considered to be a dentist who can't drill teeth, and at the other end they're considered to be a prophy queen, and they choose unless their doctor says, "Look, I need you to be my eyes. I need you to be telling the patients what you see. I need you to be taking the photos and putting them up and letting them look at those while they're having their hygiene treatment so that when I come in, I'm going to confirm what you've already told them.
Beautiful.
Your eyes are my eyes." That's, yeah, I learned, I think 2013, I met a hygienist from the United States, and she said that a good hygienist can help pre-diagnose $6,000 worth of dentistry a day back
Oh,
then.
oh, back then, that was a long time ago, right? But
Yes.
it really is, my team and I playfully say it's a team sport. Dentistry is a team sport. And so the clinical team setting up those, what are the conditions, having people understand their conditions, having pictures up about their conditions, all of that, and how they engage the patient in those conditions before the doctor ever walks in the room is gold because it helps the patient go, oh, okay, okay, now I understand. So that when the doctor's telling them, it's not the first time they've heard it, it's maybe the third or fourth time. It's
it,
beautiful.
it is. And interestingly, Melinda, and you know this, the patient trusts the hygienist and they trust the staff often more than they're a bit suspicious about the doctor. When he diagnoses treatment, does that mean, golf club fees are due, school fees are due,
Right.
mortgage payments are due? They're a little suspicious of that. But if an employee says it, they believe them more because they believe in the back of their mind that this person doesn't have a vested interest in me spending that
Exactly.
money. And
Exactly.
so it's about the health. And if you get the whole practice talking about dentistry as health rather than dentistry as tooth panel beating, which
Yes.
is what it was when I started as a dentist, you fix teeth,
Yeah.
and now we're all about the orosystemic link and looking for oral cancer screening, and just being more aware that the blood that goes through the gums is the same blood that pumps through your heart and through your lungs, and you've got to. It's all about health,
It's all
and so
connected. It's all
it's
connected.
all connected.
That's why I like to say I'm loving, not lenient, because lenient is like, oh, we don't, oh, the patient doesn't like to have their picture up. Oh, that's not my job. That's the doctor's job. Oh, I don't want to talk to him about that stuff. It's like, no, no. Loving is telling our patients what they have, telling them what they see, the oral systemic link and all that can be done to show patients really what is happening for themselves from that systemic link. I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it's like we actually can help people be healthier from a body point of view, right? Not just from the mouth point of view. And so it really is a team sport. It really is about helping patients understand what they have. I'm right now teaching a set of clients with a client diagnosis, right? The client's teaching, the dentist is teaching the diagnosis, and the doctors are typically afraid to tell the patients what they see. Isn't that crazy, David?
Why?
I know.
Why?
So because it might sound like it's too much. If I tell them everything I see, it'll sound like too much. If I only tell them this tooth, it's not going to sound so bad. So I'm going to tell them this tooth. At the next visit, I'll tell them about these teeth. At the next visit, I'll tell them about these teeth, right? So it's like I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I think we all do it where we prejudge, well, this patient doesn't have money, or this patient blah blah blah, or this patient blah. It's like we really have to let go of that, right? That piece for dentists is a number one thing. It's like let go of your prejudgments and have a system. And so David, this is what I love about systems. It's like we take the camera out, we go 1 through 32, we take the scanner out, we go 1 through 32, we sit the patient up and we talk to them about the conditions we see. We don't diagnose yet, no diagnosis, just the conditions we see, so that they can go, oh, wow, there's a lot there. It's like, well, I'm so glad you're here because we can help you. We can help you, but that's all just part of it. And that really is like one of the most important things that a dentist can do is talk to the patients about all the conditions they see. Right? Would you
Well,
agree?
Melinda, it's like when you go to the doctor and you've got you've got something wrong with your the skin on your hand, but you're overweight. What's the doctor? The doctor's not, if they're not cuffing you and measuring your blood pressure and saying, "Hey, we've got to do something about your weight because otherwise you won't last long enough to get this thing treated." It's whole body and it's whole mouth, and
Yeah,
not just pick and choose what you think. It's we're talking about their total health,
we
and we're
are.
talking about fixing thing and making this a healthy environment inside. And I used to tell my patients and I tell my team, I said, I'm going to tell you what's wrong in here, as if either two things are happening. Either it's free and you can get it all done because you
Good.
don't have to pay for it, or you're a multi and you can get it all done because it doesn't
Cost
the
anything.
price is
It does. Yes. So
not
affordable. I
not
love
relevant.
that. I love
And
that.
therefore then I'm and the other line I did, Melinda, was depending on the age of the patient and the gender, I would say this is the if you were my auntie, this is what I'd be recommending for you. If you were my nephew, this is what I'd be recommending for you. And so it's I'm taking out a judgment on whether you can afford it or not,
It's beautiful.
because in my office, it was a working class part of Sydney. I had people wear the same clothes, the same clothes for 20 years, the same jeans, the same sloppy Joe for 20 years. But yet when it came to their teeth, they were happy to pay because they valued their health. But you couldn't tell that just by
You
looking at
can't
them. If
tell.
you
You
prejudge
can't
them,
tell. You can't tell.
yeah,
It's not your responsibility to prejudge. So that's really, that lesson for dentists is hard won, but so, so true. It's like really pay attention to where you're prejudging. But that, again, David, that's the reason I like systems. You go 1 through 32, you talk to the patient about all their conditions, and you sit them up knee to knee, eye to eye, heart to heart, and you talk about the conditions, and you talk about what's possible, and you ask them, like, what, tell me what you want. Tell me, do you want to save your teeth? Do you want to do you want to have them as long as you could have them? And it's this beautiful combination of finding out what's important to the patient and then matching the recommendations to what's important to the patient. And it sounds super simple, and it really does take some confidence to do it you
Well,
know but it's the beauty of systems. It's like, if you decide that this is how you're going to do it, and you always do it that way, then when you get a new team member, it's easy to train them, and it's easy to train them on their role in that. That's the one of the primary roles for the doctor, what we're talking about. But the team has a job. Their job is to put the pictures up. Their job is to look in the treatment plan and have we diagnosed stuff before, and make sure we all know about it if we have, and make sure it's top of mind, so that it's we're always moving towards what is there for the patient, and how do we get them to health. How do we support them in health? How do we support them in optimum care? What are the ways that we do that? And so, that we have this wildly important goal. If we're not at goal, what do we need to do to make sure we get to goal? And it is these items. And so it's not, what are the 50 things this clinical team member needs to do today? It's one thing. Okay, this is the one thing. Today, you're putting pictures up. Tomorrow, it's pass offs. It might change, right? It might change from day to day what they focus on, but they have one thing that they're focused on, so that we can do a better job having people say, I choose health. I choose health. And, and so that part all sounds pretty simple. How do we make sure it's done is the next question. How do we make sure we stay on track? Because just like, we're good students in dentistry, we have a lot of CE, we're good students, we like to learn. But it really is, what are we implementing? And so we like to have a dashboard that's a weekly dashboard that each team member has their most important thing. They populate that. How did I do this week? Am I on track? Am I off track? If I'm off track, what's my one thing I'm going to focus on next week so I can get back on track? So it's this beautiful accountability system that isn't the doctor watching out for every single team member. It really is, here's the dashboard, I filled it in, and now it's up to me to say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to work on next week. So, I think we fall short in dentistry around accountability. I think we like to have one conversation and say, I had a conversation, so they should be doing it from here on out. Do you know what I'm saying, David? It's like, I told them that they should just do it. But my experiences, we're humans. And, we get focused on this or that or something else, could be just like, it's random what we get focused on. So this having a tool to bring the attention back to what's important is so that we can, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on this week.
yeah, really important. One of the lessons I learned about accountability was that I acquired a practice from a young dentist who was he was just burnt out, and so I bought his practice, and it was only him and one assistant. That was it. She had to answer phones, the help in the
Do
scary
everything.
help
She
in the,
was she was
do
doing
everything.
everything.
But he had an accountability system of, like, lights are turned on, compressor turned on, computer turned on, and it was only him and her. So, which meant that she was ticking every box anyway, but she had to tick it off every day. I thought, well, that's great accountability, because she had to actually admit and that she had done it. And
I
that's
love
the
that.
trouble when we don't have accountability, is did you do that? Oh no, I forgot. And then it's like, well, when did you forget? Like not today, but you've actually forgot 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that's why
Exactly.
the system has started to fall apart. And sometimes it's due to overload that people just
Sure.
miss something. Oh, he didn't notice, or she didn't notice, so we can get away with that. But when it's time for that to actually be relevant, it's kind of like, well, this is why we need this every day. We might not look at it every day, but it's like checking your tires. If you don't check the pressure in your tires every day, eventually you're going to wear one side out before the other, and it's going to cost you a lot more money than just the time to make sure that your tires are balanced. So really, really
Absolutely.
important in any business to
Eh,
be accountable, one to yourself, but two to the processes.
Yeah. Two to the processes. I love that, David. And, dentists are so busy. I mean, it's hard for them to manage. The office managers are also doing line responsibilities. So everybody's like got their hands in all kinds of pots. And so without accountability, without some system of accountability, it's easy for that stuff to go on for months, right? And not be taken care of. I mean, I've walked into offices where their accounts receivable is totally out of control. And why is that? Because the front office is too busy to even make a financial arrangement.
Mm.
So they don't make financial arrangements. They're like, whatever, we'll figure it out later, you know? And fortunately, we don't see that much of that anymore. But it happens. Insurance out of control, it happens. So it's what is our system to make sure we're on track? Do we have a system to make sure we're on track? And is it a system that allows us to course correct? So is it a punitive system or is it an empowering system? It's like, oh, okay, I just need to pivot. I just need to pivot a little bit. This isn't that hard. I just need to pivot. And I think the biggest difficulty is when an office doesn't have a checklist like, the one you acquired, right? When they don't, which is most of the time they don't have a checklist of any kind,
True.
right? When they don't, then it really is you're developing a habit that wasn't there. And that takes some work from the doctor owner and the office manager to get it in place.
Well, that system that I was telling you about was just a procedural thing for opening and setting up, and
Uh-huh.
back office stuff. But what you say there again, it comes down to: do they have a system for answering the phone? Do they have a
Yes.
system for doing their handovers or their pass offs? Do they
Hmm.
have a system for checking out the patient in the right order
Yep.
of things, so that you know this is a line I learned from somebody who learned it from somebody who was in Amway. And you remember
I
Amway? They used
do
to come around
remember
and they'd
Amway.
give you a tape, and they'd say, "Listen to this tape," and then they'd ring you up and say, "Did you listen to that tape?" And if you said yes or no, it didn't bother them. They say, "That's all right. I've got another tape for you." And so
He
if
just
you,
kept going.
what's the point? The point was that this is from Amway. The purpose of an appointment is to make another appointment, and that's what we need in
Ah,
dentistry. They've got an appointment with
right.
us. They need another appointment. Everybody needs another appointment.
Everybody does. Everybody
Everybody
needs
needs the
another.
next appointment, and so we've got to create the clarity that, as you were saying, to make sure that they understand why they're coming back. And
Yep.
it's not because we tell them you're due in 6 months. What's the reason? What are we checking? We're checking that bleeding. We're checking that pocket depth. We're checking that mobility. Checking that bone depth with an X-ray. Now with the scanners, we can see things as well. We want to make sure we're looking for change
We
so
are
that we
looking for
we can
change.
anticipate and prevent. In fact, I saw a quote just this morning or yesterday from Frank Spear about cracks in teeth, and that cracks in teeth are that they just they're a death sentence for the tooth unless we prevent them from spreading.
Well,
And so,
Gordon Christensen talked about track cracks. I mean, many years ago, David. And I can't even tell you, I'm looking at pictures doing this treatment. treatment presentation class. And doctors are making a judgment about when to talk to the patient about a crack. When, right? So I've been watching this for 3 years. Now I'm going to talk to the patient about it. So I love that Frank's saying that, because the truth is it's a crack. It's a crack. I mean, what are you vulnerable to if it's a crack, right? You're
But
vulnerable.
the only thing about a crack is whether it's going to be a subgingival fracture or a supragingival fracture, and it's rarely supragingival, so it's just if it cracks right down. Yeah, and the longer somebody's a dentist, and I saw this, a crack in a tooth that hadn't even been restored, a premolar with a crack and a vertical fracture, gone, split, upper premolar between the two
Virgin
roots,
tooth, virgin tooth.
virgin tooth, and on a female patient. So you can't say, big man grinding his teeth, chewing too hard. No.
No,
So
no.
what caused it, and could we have prevented it?
I
And so,
mean, that's the piece, right? Could we have prevented it? And so, this is the dental piece of it, right? This is for the dentist. This is the dentist's job, is to call that hygiene with pre-diagnosis. I had a client use decay finder, right, to like color that crack, and that's super smart, right? So whatever you can do to show the patient what they have, and tell them always tell them, right? Tell them, use the Frank Spear information to support your claim, but tell them. And so, it's this piece. It's like, I think you're right. We all get busy, right? Everybody gets busy. The dentist gets busy. The hygienist gets busy. The dental assistants get busy. And then how do you focus, right? How do you kind of pull back and focus? One of the things that we track for doctors, David, is case acceptance. And so that's a weekly measurable for that doctor. It's beautiful. Because when I ask the doctor, how's it going? I mean, all my patients say yes.
but,
Right?
but
There's a
they,
feeling.
they're saying, all the patients are saying yes because he's not diagnosing enough and presenting enough.
So just human nature, right? So doctors really can step in more. There's room to step in more if you're seeing conditions. If you're not seeing conditions, then no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about seeing conditions and being straightforward about conditions. And measure yourself, right? I mean, this piece, it's like that's what trues us up as human beings. There's some measurables for the admin team. There's some measurables for the clinical team. There's some measurables for the hygiene team. Measure yourself to see, like, am I really hitting the mark that I want to hit? How am I doing with it, patients getting to yes? And is it what I want, or would I like it to be a little better?
Well, it can always be better.
For sure, right? For sure. And I do notice that when people first start tracking, they hate the red, David. They hate it when they're off track. They hate it. And I think it's human nature. Like, we want to make the basket every single time we throw. But it's not what we do. It's not even the big leagues don't do that, right? But it's like getting comfortable with, I'm just getting comfortable tracking. Like, if there's one thing that they could take away from this, like, track something. Track for each person, each team member. It really starts to, it's just like when we want to lose weight. We don't say we want to lose weight and do nothing. We say we want to lose weight and we track what we eat. We bump up our exercise. There's some ways to make sure we can lose weight. And it's the same with treatment acceptance and patients, making our wildly important goal. It's like, are we doing the most important thing to make the wildly important goal? And it's, again, straightforward, and we have to claim it and track it.
Well, everybody's got to track in terms of in the office. Obviously the case presentation and the case acceptance is important
Yep.
because that's what generates the income for the practice that then provides for us to be able to give our patients better care
Yep.
and employ better team members and reward better team members and efforts. But the other thing about tracking, and we used to do it in my office, and this is what led to what Jane does, is tracking, the appointment conversion on a phone call, rather
Beautiful.
than just say,
That's
"Oh,
beautiful.
shopper," because everybody who rings a dental office, nobody rings a dental office for fun. They've always got a dental
No,
problem,
that they do,
and
and
they've done
they
their
called. They called because they wanted to schedule.
That's it. They've done their homework already because the internet allows them to do their homework. This looks like a nice place. These people on this website look like they enjoy working there. I want to make an appointment, and then, as we were talking before we started recording, somebody who answers the phone talks them out of it because they say, "Oh, you might want to put that off." We had an office where they said, "Oh, you want to book your children in? You'll probably want to bring them in school holidays." Well, school holidays was another 4 weeks away, and yet they had time the next day and the day after for the children.
Well, it's the thing. I mean, this is the human nature part, right? I was in a practice a couple weeks ago, and when the person walked in, they said, "Oh, you have to do your crown today. You probably don't want to do that filling right next door, do you?" Patient gets in the back. She goes, "Yeah, sure. I don't." Gets in the back, talks to the assistant. Wouldn't you know, patient's like, "No, no, I want to do that filling right next to that crown." So, it's like really this piece of um, we gently moving our patients to a yes versus getting in the way of their yes.
Well, there's a rule which people in a dental practice don't really understand about patients, and that is that if the dentist finds something wrong on the tooth beside and ask the patient, would they like that done today? It's 100% yes. They don't even ask how much it's going to be. They say, no more shots. I don't have to come back. Yeah, of course, I'll get it done today. So from that rule, you can then ask patients, well, we've got 10 fillings to do. Would you like me to do them in 10 visits or as few as possible? They're always going to say, do them as
You're
few as
right.
possible.
You're right.
And it's funny. I was talking 10 years ago to Dr. Anissa Holmes, and her husband was an oral surgeon, and he said to her, "Why are you doing one side of the mandible one for fillings one day and the other side another day?" And she said, "Well, shouldn't the patient not be numb on both sides?" He says, "Every day I'm pulling out 4 wisdom teeth. They're numb all over their mouth, and they're not biting their tongue. They're not having
Wow,
any
isn't it
issues with that."
amazing? It's a great example of how we see things,
Yeah,
right?
we get told something, and it's the old thing about why are you cutting off the ankle of
The
the leg of pork before you
lamb.
put it in the
Yeah.
oven?
Yeah.
And it's just that's the way it was always done in my family. Why was
That's
it done
right.
in? Because
That's
Grandma
right.
had a small oven.
Well, I mean, that is what we're talking about. And so, in the absence of a system, these are the things that are going to happen. In the
Yes.
absence of measuring those systems, we're going to just keep kind of rolling over some of these things. With a system and with our tracking it and with actually having a way for people to know how they're doing, our team members, a way for them to know how they're doing, we really we can't even get to some of these things. And what I love about being a student of our systems in dentistry is that when we're a student of our systems, we actually stand a way greater chance to have more of our patients be healthy, because that's ultimately what we're tracking.
We, we are. It's it's the primary reason we want our patients coming back. We want them to keep their teeth. We want their teeth to look as good as they can. We
Yep,
want them to function as good as they can and to feel as good as they can. Not painful, not have to favour one
exactly.
side over the other. And when we consider those three things, Melinda, unfortunately or fortunately, as in life, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And while ever a dentist or somebody in the office is in the patient's wallet, we're actually doing the patient a disservice as
Yes.
by not
Yes.
presenting what we see and what is
Yes.
needed because we think it's what they can or cannot afford.
Yeah, that's
And
great, David. Like we're focused on the wrong thing. It's not even our job, right, to judge whether they can or can't afford it. I mean, it is our job to find out who they are and what's important to them and how dentistry can help them have a better life. It is important that we make that connection. And our job is to let them know the conditions we see. It's all of our job. It's not just the dentist job. Really, it's all of our job. I started in perio, and I think that's why it's so serious to me, because as an assistant, I got to be right next to that periodontist when they flapped open the tooth, and you could see all the bone destruction, and it's massive. It's massive. And that's because someone was lenient in all likelihood, and also didn't take the time to figure out how to connect to the patient so that they could understand what was happening for themselves. And I mean, I think there's an art to that, but I think really it's like our primary responsibility is to understand our patients, what's important to them, and how to match their conditions to what's important to them and the treatment to what's important to them.
you just reminded me, my financial advisor used to go to a periodontist every 3 months, and his wife used to go to her old family dentist every 6 months and have her cleans done by the dentist. And then all of a sudden, in her 50s, she's found out that she's going to lose teeth, because not because of her own neglect,
No.
but because of the misinformation she was given that everything was okay when it wasn't okay, and that she was probably only having her lower six anteriors cleaned only, and
Wow.
calculus and tartar was building up. And she said to me, she said, if I'd have been told that I should be going every 3 months instead of every 6 months and seeing a hygienist instead of a dentist, if somebody had told me, if you don't, you will lose your teeth sooner,
Yeah,
I'd have been there. But nobody ever gave
absolutely.
me that message.
Nobody gave me a chance. Nobody gave
No.
me a chance to know. Wow. I mean, this is the part. If I had a flag, David, that would be my flag. That would be what's on my flag. It's like it's our job to let them know what's there. That's our job. Lovingly, with skill. You talked to Catherine about the three types of conversations, and she is the queen of really how to lay this out in a way that people understand it, as far as a loving conversation that's honest, right? It's so our patients are like, in some ways we're counseling them, in some ways, right, David? This is
Mm.
this is what I see. Here's the treatment for that. If you want to save your teeth, this is what we can do. You're in the right place. We can help you, so that we don't have what happened to your patient, which is somebody making a choice for her, and then, you know, like things get worse and worse and worse, and she didn't even know.
It's crazy. I don't know what it's like over there, Melinda, but down here, dentists now have to give patients options as to what their treatment choices are. But what I found was that every time I gave the patient an option, they always thought that option two was just as good as option one.
Well, there's
You
some
know,
skill in that one,
well,
right?
it's like, do you want the blue car or the red car? They're options that are equal. Doesn't affect the age of the car or whether it rusts quicker. It's just your choice of color. But asking somebody who doesn't have a dental degree about what they want for their house, for their mouth, sorry, it's like asking somebody, what do you want for your house? You've got a hole in your roof. Here's your options. We can do nothing. It might rain on the other side of the house and no water goes through the hole, or we can put a tarp over and that might keep the rain out if the wind doesn't blow it off, or we could put some plastic sheeting on and see whether that works. And by that time, the person goes, just give me a new roof, just give me a brand new roof.
Absolutely. Get over yourself and give me a new roof. Right? You're right about that, David. I mean, and this is the responsibility of the dentist. This really
Absolutely.
is. This is the responsibility of the dentist. It's like, what is the best way to take care of this condition? And why is that a good recommendation?
I had a patient in my first year as a dentist, and he literally did this. And he said, David, he said, just hang on a minute. He goes, what's with all these options? He said, you're the guy in the white coat. Tell me what I need to get done, and I'll get it done. And that was
Wow,
the best bit of
that was
dental
awesome.
advice that I ever received.
Good.
And so as a dentist, I would ask the patient, come in with a new patient with a toothache. I say, you don't want to lose this tooth, do you? And they go, no, I don't. And so that was the anchor. Well, here's
That's
what we need to
beautiful.
do. This is what
Beautiful.
we need to do so you
I
can keep your
love
tooth.
that, David. I love that. You don't want to lose this tooth, do you? I mean, that's perfect. So that's we call those curious questions. So asking that curious question so you can engage the patient, that's just beautiful. You don't want to lose this tooth, do you? No, I don't. Good. This is what we need to do,
Now,
right?
if they said if they said, look, my mum, she had no teeth, she chewed just fine, I would double check that. If they said it again, can't argue with, that's you
Yeah,
don't
then
wrestle
you
with a
knew.
pig, you can't argue with an idiot. You
Yeah,
just,
you have to honor that, right? If you've
yeah,
double checked it, you have to honor that.
yeah,
But what we're talking about is not creating that from the beginning.
or presuming it.
Or presuming it.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly.
because
Exactly.
that presumption is what you know. And the other thing, Melinda, and it's a cliche. When the only thing that you've got in your toolkit is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Right.
And so, as a dentist, we've got to say, well, it's not just a partial denture; it's an implant or it's a bridge. And now dentists should be moving away from bridges to implants because we're not
Absolutely.
compromising the
Absolutely.
joining
Absolutely,
teeth.
David. This is one of the things that helps a dentist that I found is that when you're looking at all those conditions, you're not saying, what can I do to patch it? You're saying, if I never saw this patient again for 20 years, what would be the best recommendation today? What's the best long-term recommendation for this tooth? And you go with that. Not what can I do to patch it so it lasts for a while. I just looked at a treatment plan, and there was a MOD that went to underneath the gum line when he cleaned it, went underneath the gum line. Uh, the pa- that another dentist did it. This patient comes in, they're still complaining. The dentist recommended an MODL, right? Like, what the heck? What are we doing here? So you couldn't even get a clean margin on it for the filling, as you know. And
Mm.
so it's like, come on now, like full coverage was the thing, right? But what are we messing around for? And so it's these pieces that you're talking about, like, what is the best long-term solution for this condition? Even when you open it up, now what? And so, again, I think that's why a system helps. It's like, what is your system? So the system is, what's the best recommendation for 20 years, not for today, 20 years. What's the best? You need doctors need places to give them a little room so that they're not so self-conscious and worried. And the system gives them the room.
You're right. You have to have that long term vision as to what's the point. So when the patient says, "Oh, doc, can't you just fill it?" and it needs a crown, the answer's simple. I say, well,
It's
look,
like,
if I can't fill it because I won't seal it, and so therefore it's going to decay. So then we're going to need a crown in a year or two, and there's going to be decayed tooth, so it's going to be worse. And it's not like buying a color TV. The price of crowns does go up.
yes,
Color TV
yes.
prices go down, but it's not. So why would you wait and spend more in a couple of years and make it worse? And we lose tooth structure when we can use that tooth structure to support the crown and keep that
It's
tooth as healthy
beautiful.
as long as possible.
Plus, you feel bad. You feel bad having to redo it in 2 years. It feels bad. Doesn't
Oh,
feel good.
Well,
Doesn't feel good.
that's right. You actually keep putting it off. Oh, gee, I only did that a year ago, and it's already rotting. And that's
Ooh,
because they eat sugar, drink soda, and don't floss. You know, things that I can't control.
right,
And
exactly, exactly. Dennis, David, it kind of makes me, I kind of get a little chuckle because, um, I do nerd out. We both, how you nerd out a little bit on this dentistry piece. And I think it is that way. I mean, you're a dentist, so it's easy, right? But for me, I think it's the early experience that I had seeing these areas, right, be completely devastated, and then knowing it's like, wait, right? And so it is this piece of what are the guardrails that help us do a good long-term job with our patients, and also how do we help our patients get there, and part of this is confidence. It's just confidently recommending that long-term solution.
yeah, the long term solution is the answer, Melinda,
Yeah.
and it's not that. Yeah, and this used to be the old thing with amalgam fillings. How long is this filling going to last? Well, probably until you just walk out the door. By the time you choose something, a cusp's going to break off because the cusp's unsupported. The amalgam's got pins. All these things that was history. But
Right.
in reality, we've got to make things last for as long as they possibly can. I once remember 15 years ago an implant dentist saying to a patient, "Can you guarantee this implant?" He said, "Well, I can guarantee that it's going to fail. It just depends on how long you live
I
as to
love
whether it
that.
fails."
I
Because
love
he's
that.
and it's true. The same thing that caused you to lose the tooth is the same thing that's going to cause you to the implant to fail. So we have to have these changes
Yep.
in behaviours.
Yep.
The story that if somebody wins the lottery within 2 years, they've lost all the money. They've burnt it, they've spent it, and they're
Wow.
back to being poor like they were before. It's the same what goes on in the mouth. Somebody walks in, they say, "I want to fix all my teeth," and then they don't come for regular checkups. They don't
Right.
protect their investment. It's
Wow.
crazy.
That is crazy. Well, and that doesn't feel good either. So I mean, there is I don't know, part of it is really there is a motivation and inspiration. There is a whole piece on having people embrace what it's going to take to keep themselves healthy over time. And so, what you're talking about here is coming in regularly for their continuing care. And, I mean, cancellations that are at an all time high, particularly for cleanings, particularly. But you and I both have seen, David, when you look at the pictures of a patient that has come in regularly in the x-rays, pictures, x-ray scans of people who come in regularly, it's shocking how well their dentistry stays intact and in good. But when they don't, it doesn't. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And
Yes,
so
yes.
it's this, and I think that's really involving the patient in that piece. So one of the things that we've done, I've had clients do is save pictures of patients who have maintained their teeth, and are there on the frequency, and save pictures of people who haven't, and put those on they're decoded. They don't have names on them, but put it on the desktop so that when patients walk in, just say, like, this is what this is going to get you. If you are regular, look, here's the difference. This is what it's going to look like. If you're not, this is the rate, this is the piece. Because a picture is worth 1,000 words, and we are constantly taking care of patients who didn't choose yes. So have those patients teach the other patients, right? What happens when you neglect what we're saying? And all of this is through inspiration. It's not through beating them over the head. It's all about lovingly have the system to lovingly have them choose their health, right? Beating them over the head is not the deal, and more education isn't it. It's lovingly inspiring them, the patient, to say yes to themselves for health.
Exactly, because they're adults. You
They're
know,
adults.
they
They're
they
adults.
they don't need a lecture about their teeth. They don't need a lecture about attending. They don't. They're adults, and it's funny. Even the language that they use on the phone is just ringing to confirm, just ringing to
Correct.
remind. You know,
Correct.
they're adults. They don't need confirming and reminding. Let's use a different thing to 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 say, why we're calling them. Just letting you know,
Yeah.
Dr. Moffat's looking forward to seeing you tomorrow at 10:30.
Whole
Yeah,
different thing, right?
yeah.
We're cultivating inspiration.
Mm.
We're cultivating patients being regular. It always cracks me up when hygienists say, "Well, I'm here to educate." Like, what does that look like? Because the truth is, our job is to inspire people to say yes. That's our job. And we have a bunch of people that are very good at this inspiration piece. And I'll tell you, pictures go a long way to inspiring people to action.
They
So
do.
they do. So we have
Pictures worth
we
1,000 words.
it is, and it's their picture. So like, use what we have a system, monitor your results so that you can course correct.
Of course. Melinda, we could talk for hours, but we've run out of time. It, it's so good catching up with you.
Oh,
If
you too.
anybody wants to find out more and talk to you about their practice, what's the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, thank you, David. So my name will be on this podcast. It's melinda@melindahereford.com. Please email me David, I'll send you a QR code. We have a system that actually it unburdens 5 other systems, and it's our system for getting paid first. And so we are offering that as a gift to your podcast listeners. And it really is about having no accounts receivable. It's the system to have no accounts receivable. So there is, yes, a way to do that, which is awesome. And we'd be happy to share that with your listeners, David.
Oh, Melinda, thank you so much. It's great catching up with you. It has been a long time,
It
and
has.
I look forward to one day being back in the United States
Me
doing
too.
some dental work and coaching and maybe bumping into you again. So
Absolutely.
um, that would be great.
Thank you, David. Great to be here with you.
Thanks, Melinda.
Thank you for tuning in to another inspiring episode of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. We appreciate each and every one of you for being a part of our dental community and joining us each week on this incredible journey. If you found value in today's episode and you don't want to miss out on future episodes packed with expert insights and actionable strategies, here's how you can stay connected with us. Firstly, hit that subscribe button. Whether you're listening on your favorite podcast platform or watching on our website, subscribing ensures you'll never miss an episode. Secondly, share the love. If you know a fellow dentist or colleague who could benefit from the wisdom and knowledge that we share here, please share our podcast with them. Also, please share the podcast on your socials by simply clicking on the social icons wherever you view or listen to this podcast. Together, we can all do our bit to elevate the dental profession. And finally, stay engaged with us. We love hearing from you. Your questions, comments, and feedback fuel our mission to provide the best content for your professional growth, your personal growth, and for your practice growth. Remember, your journey to creating a dental practice and a business life that you love is our mission, and we're excited to be your trusted guide along the way. Thank you for being a part of the Ultimate Dental Podcast. Until next time, keep smiling, keep striving, and keep on tuning in to the Ultimate Dental Podcast.